Well, welcome everyone. I'm Merriam, and I am chairing the Peterborough Immigration Partnership. We're really pleased that we've had so much interest in coming to the annual meeting today. The Peterborough Immigration Partnership provides leadership in cultivating an inclusive and sustainable community by coordinating and convening community partners to ensure meaningful newcomer integration. In addressing newcomer integration issues, the Peterborough Immigration Partnership remains committed to creating a community that reflects our anti-oppressive and anti-racist values. And it certainly is integral to a very vibrant social infrastructure that our community needs and will need in the future. I'd like to ask Michelle to do the land acknowledgement, please.
Thank you, Dawn, and good morning, everyone. Today we are meeting on Treaty 20 Michisagi territory and in the traditional territory of the Michisagi and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. I think it is important to acknowledge the land and position myself on it because I am a second generation daughter of Vietnamese former refugees. My ancestors have experienced the loss of their homelands and separation from their traditional lands, culture, language, and the right to self-determination. Nonetheless, as uninvited guests living, working, and playing on Turtle Island, I recognize that we are also settlers who benefit from colonial practices, systems, and narratives, and who continue to reinforce them. As a settler, I am committed to reframing my responsibilities to the land and community and to encouraging my kin to do so too. I am grateful to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. While preparing this land acknowledgement, I learned that treaties are binding agreements to guide the relationships between sovereign peoples, including between Indigenous peoples and settlers. Despite that, the Williams Treaties led to longstanding injustices, including insufficient compensation, inadequate reserve lands, and disputes about harvesting rights. Understanding this history and the work that still needs to be done, I hope that our meeting and discussions today will renew our partnerships together in the spirit of collaboration and reconciliation, especially in acknowledging the historical and ongoing impact of colonialism on Indigenous peoples and committing to the 94 calls to action for truth and reconciliation. May today be an opportunity for us to reflect on what it means to rebuild trust, to learn together, and to collectively work on creating a more equitable and just community.
Thank you, Michelle. That to me was one of the most important messages of land acknowledgement that we could have for a meeting like this today. The next piece on the annual members meeting will be the presentation by Andy on the highlights from the PIP operational plan 2023 to 2024.
Great, thank you, Dawn, and good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Andy Craig. I am the Executive Director of the New Canadian Centre. And we could go to the next slide, please, Yvonne. So I thought I would start with a little bit of history for those who are newer to the Peterborough Immigration Partnership and our work together, and then move through some of the highlights from the last year. So the PIP, the Peterborough Immigration Partnership, was created around 2009 and really grew out of a grant opportunity created by the federal government. Call out to communities across the country to form immigration partnerships to bring partners together to help address the needs of newcomers. In our case, the founding partners that came together were the City of Peterborough, the Workforce Development Board, Community Race Relations Committee of Peterborough, the Trent Centre for Community-Based Education, which is now the Trent Community Research Centre, and the New Canadian Centre. I think we can be proud of the fact that there were 10 organizations across the country, 10 new local immigration partnerships that were funded those 15 years ago, and our immigration partnership in Peterborough was one of those. So we have been doing this work for many years. The initiative to have local immigration partnerships in communities across the country has grown over those 15 years, and now there's more than 80 LIPs, local immigration partnerships, that exist across the country. And they vary in size and how they're organized and how they're staffed. Some are housed within municipalities, some are housed within economic development corporations or employment agencies. In our case, it exists within a local settlement agency, but it's very much a collaborative entity. And NCC sees ourselves as holding the core funding, but really as a partner amongst many in the Peterborough Immigration Partnership. All right, next slide, please. So brings us to today. Over those 15 years, the New Canadian Centre continues to hold the core funding through the federal government for the staffing and administration of the Peterborough Immigration Partnership, and we have over 80 partner organizations who are involved in the work that we do. We have our coordinating committee as well as 4 working groups. Really, over the last several years, we've been focusing on not having standing committees, but having evolving working groups focused on guiding particular projects, which really reflects the ongoing strategic approach of prioritizing getting things done, not just meeting to talk about things. And so currently, that looks like a mental health working group, which has more recently in the last year evolved out of what was the settlement working group, but really the desire from that group to focus more on mental health. We have a student support and retention working group, which focuses, as the name suggests, on particularly international students. And we have the Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages Forum, and we have more recently as well formed a Workplace Inclusion Charter Steering Committee. And we'll hear more about that initiative later on in the agenda. The New Canadian Centre leads various aspects of what the Immigration Partnership does in terms of specific projects and that contribute to our goals collectively. And in recent times, and currently that has included the community training program, which is a series of different kinds of training, anti-racism training, Immigration 101, cultural humility, a variety of different trainings. We also have our Living Library program through which newcomers get training and have opportunities to speak to different organizations and community members about their immigration journey. And sharing stories of settlement and belonging. We also have our Peterborough Welcome Pass program, which has over 30 community partners providing free access to programming for newcomers in their period after they've arrived in Peterborough. So many great partners there providing that access and really encouragement for newcomers to engage with the many great assets we have in the community. We also, the New Canadian Centre runs on behalf of the City of Peterborough and the Immigration Partnership, we run welcomepeterborough.ca, which is a website portal that provides a whole range of information for folks who are thinking about moving to and settling in Peterborough. And for a number of years now, we have been delivering the survey of immigrant needs. And so really this is part of our commitment to research and data and generating a comprehensive data around what the needs of newcomers are. So we have been doing this research project every 2 years to get that data concretely to support not just the work of the New Canadian Centre, but especially the work of all of our immigration partnership partners to see what the needs are and how we can respond to those in the day-to-day services provided by our organizations. The English in the Workplace is a new project which we'll hear more about later, and increasingly we have been working to support various multicultural organizations in our community, which as the community is growing and the diversity that exists here is growing, there are more groups coming together with specific ethnic cultural backgrounds, and we've been trying to support them in their growth and expanding what they do. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So currently we have a strategic plan that runs 2022 to 2025. It outlines 3 priorities, which are strengthening collaboration, building community awareness and capacity, and advocating for change. And I can talk about each of those in turn. If you want to go ahead 2 slides, we can talk about how we did on each of those 3 priorities. So in terms of strengthening collaboration, as I mentioned, after checking in with our partners, we decided to pause the meetings of the settlement working group, where there were updates on various aspects of settlement, and work towards a more defined focus on particularly mental health. So this is where the mental health working group really emerged as a result, and there are currently 13 very engaged partners coming together regularly as part of that working group. As a network, we were better able to identify opportunities to leverage resources and funding opportunities. That included most recently a grant through a gender-based analysis capacity local knowledge mobilization grant, which really gave us a bit of money to hold the event that we had last week called Women Helping Women in conjunction with International Women's Day. So we had a great event here at the New Canadian Centre that brought together newcomer women to help them celebrate their role in creating a just community. And we were also able to support and bring some funding towards the community-wide International Women's Day activities that were organized by the Kawartha Sexual Assault Center and the Kawartha World Issues Center. We've also been collaborating with Dr. Madhura Sundaraswaran and the Peterborough Family Health Team to create and help guide the Newcomer Health Clinic, which is a very exciting initiative. And we've had support financially from the Family Health Team as well as the Greater Peterborough Health Services Foundation. And the clinic really provides initial health screenings, referrals, and immunization catch-up for, at this point, a small group of vulnerable newcomers that are referred through the New Canadian Centre. I think we had a goal of about 50 clients in the first year, which has been quite substantially exceeded. Obviously, as we all know, there's a high demand for primary care services in Peterborough, and we're now into the second year and looking forward to hopefully seeing that initiative continue and grow over time. So in terms of our priority area of building community awareness and capacity, we have, as part of that, implemented a communication strategy. We've really seen the growth in our activities there, a 50% increase in page views for the welcomepeterborough.ca immigration portal, which had a substantial refresh in the last year, and an 89% increase in the reach for the newsletter that we put out regularly. Provides information on programs and events for newcomers in both Peterborough and Northumberland County. Last June, as part of our community awareness activities, we had month-long activities under the banner of the Canadian Multicultural Festival. This included a downtown food crawl supported by the Downtown Business Improvement Association and in collaboration with the City of Peterborough as they were marking the Parks and Recreation Month. We had a panel on World Refugee Day and a whole variety of other events where people were able to immerse themselves in multicultural crafts, sports, and foods. We're planning a similar event this coming June, which you can look forward to. We've also continued to promote our Building a Home children's book. Some of you may know that we published a children's book a couple of years ago, which is beautiful. If you haven't seen it yet, you can buy copies at Watson and Lou downtown. We've had many readings. Hundreds of local school children have had readings of the book at this point. We also had an opportunity last fall. We hosted a small conference and were able to distribute copies of the book to about 150 people, delivering refugee resettlement programming in about 15 different communities across Ontario. We continue to do the Living Library presentations, which I spoke about earlier, and had 19 presentations where the members of the presenters as part of that were able to reach an audience of almost 700 people locally. Next slide, please. We also engaged in training to support the PIP community and other community partners. We organized a half-day bystander intervention training, and we've been developing cultural humility and immigration 101 trainings. Where else are we here? So, right, we also launched the English in the Workplace program more fully. I'm excited to share that we, and to thank really these partners, Shamong Home Hardware, NEFAB, Curtis Construction, SGS Lakefield, the Kawartha Butter Tart Factory, and Cameron Steel as the initial participants in the English in the Workplace program. So really, this is a collaboration between the New Canadian Centre, the Immigration Partnership, local employers, and their employees who employers and their employees basically recognize that there's a need for increased language training, and we'll hear a little bit more about this later, but excited to have local employers coming on with this program. We also, as I mentioned, have been connecting more and more with multicultural organizations to learn about their work, to share information and resources with them, to share information about them on the Welcome Peterborough portal and in other places so that people know that they exist and can connect in with them. And we had specifically a workshop a month or so ago where we helped share resources, including specifically about whether they want to, what would be involved in incorporating as officially as nonprofit corporations. In terms of advocating for change, the third pillar, we have done, quite a bit of work on this in the past year, I would say. We participate, our staff participate in a variety of different planning tables, which include the Early Years Planning Network, the Ontario Ukrainian Planning Table, the Peterborough Planning Table for Children and Youth. We also participated at several local Chamber of Commerce events, including the Business Summit and a mental health event on Bell Let's Talk Day. We also provide input on a whole range of strategic plans. Often organizations are developing strategic plans and have surveys and focus groups and things like that. So we make a specific effort to bring newcomer perspectives to those opportunities. We also want to ensure that there's strong data to support our advocacy efforts, and excited to share that actually we have really concretely a community-based research project, which we'll hear about very shortly in collaboration with some great students from Trent University and the Workforce Development Board. We also have just this morning signed officially an agreement with the Trent Sociology Department for a multi-year research study with Dr. Eugenia Kwan, who I believe is in the audience here. Really excited to have that as a multi-year research project, and our thanks to Eugenia for her leadership on that. We also are actively engaged with Jason Dennison and others at Fleming College in a multi-year research project funded through the Higher Education Quality Council of Ontario, which is around mapping labor market outcomes for international students and graduates there. So really getting some great data on the experiences and outcomes of international students. And, really for years we've been talking about how do we attract and retain international students, literally by definition educated young people who are in our community, and we want them to stay. And so this is a research project that gives us some great data to support that work. We've also been engaged in other networking and supporting other local immigration partnerships through the National LIP Secretariat and the Eastern Ontario LIP Network and the 905 Plus LIP Network. So really doing lots in various forums to share information and get information and bring it to different places. So just to wrap up on this third priority, we also are excited to share that we are on the cusp of launching a newcomer advisory table, which will be an important part of advocating for change locally. This table will be comprised of newcomers who have completed the New Canadian Centre's annual 6-week newcomer leadership program. And I'll shout out to Yvonne Lai for her vision and leadership in creating that program a few years ago, as well as Rising Collective for their early help in developing it. More recently, we've been working with the Journeys to Active Citizenship program run out of the North York Community House. We plan to continue to run that newcomer leadership program with graduates, participants in that, having the opportunity to join the newcomer advisory table. And so essentially what that will be, will position newcomers as leaders and strong voices who channel their skills and lived experience for the betterment of the community. Organizations who are looking for a community perspective on strategy, program, initiative, or a candid discussion of issues are welcome to come and share that at the table and gain that feedback. So those are my updates on our work this year. I believe we'll have a chance at the end for discussion and some comments and questions on that. And I'll pass it back to Dawn, I think, at this point. Thanks, Dawn. You're on mute, Dawn.
Is that better? I'm back. When you think of what Andy's presentation covered today, and for those of us who've been involved from the very beginning, there's no comparison to where things started a few years ago to the amount of work and effort that's been going into changing this community. So thank you, Andy, and thank you, Yvonne, for putting the presentation together and also for the ongoing work that you all do at the New Canadian Centre. I think, as Andy said, we'll leave questions and comments to later. And I will now ask Michelle to talk about the Workplace Inclusion Charter.
You, Dawn. Okay. I believe everyone should see my screen now. So good morning again, everyone. I didn't introduce myself earlier. My name is Michelle, and I am the Peterborough Immigration Partnership Officer. And one of the projects that I've been working on since I started in this role was the Peterborough Workplace Inclusion Charter. So today I will be sharing about what we've worked on so far and what are our next steps moving forward with this project. And just as a refresher for those that don't know about the Charter, it is a multi-partner, no-cost toolkit and recognition program for businesses and organizations of all sizes to foster a welcoming and inclusive community. So essentially what a charter is that it's a set of commitments that are voluntarily adopted by employers to increase inclusive practices and to promote the integration of newcomers, women, Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+, Indigenous, racialized peoples, and persons with disabilities in the workplace. And it is a strategy to attract and retain employees within our region. So over the course of the last year, we've looked to the findings from our survey of immigrant needs to understand what are the gaps in the labor market integration of newcomers. We've also conducted desk-based research on diversity, equity, inclusion policies in workplaces, and have also collaborated with Trent students in their community-based research course to conduct environmental scans and literature reviews, looking at different workplace inclusion charters across Canada, the gaps of employment for minority groups, and DEI policies in workplaces. Along with that, we've also heard from representatives who are practitioners of workplace inclusion charters in Bow Valley, Alberta, and in Kingston, Ontario, to learn about their processes of implementing and designing the charter. Finally, in the last few months, we have formed a steering committee to guide the design and the delivery model of the Peterborough Workplace Inclusion Charter. So it is my honor to introduce to you the Workplace Inclusion Charter 2023 to 2024 Steering Committee, which include representatives from the PBNC School Board, United Way, Rainbow Services Organization, Peterborough Regional Health Center, and Muskoka Kawarthas Employment Services. So we have met on a bi-weekly basis to learn more about the different charters, what their lessons learned were, and to really think about how we can bring those lessons to Peterborough and design our own charter. And I'd like to share some of those lessons today. So over the course of 2 meetings, we learned about the Bow Valley Workplace Inclusion Charter, which was established in 2017, and the Kingston Workplace Inclusion Charter, which was established in 2019. And both have the same objective of promoting inclusion in the workplace, but the approach of which they went about it and the process of getting there looks a little different. So in Bow Valley, they consist of a smaller community of, I think, around 20,000 in population, and they had a larger number of newcomers who were getting work in the region. And so the charter discussions began when a group of service providers created a list of demands to share with employers to encourage them to work more on how to support newcomer employees within their workplaces. And together with different partner organizations and stakeholders, they came up with a list of SMART commitments, otherwise spelled out as specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound commitments to promote inclusion. So some of that could look like creating translated documents of health and safety guidelines. It could refer to recognizing different holidays and encouraging people to take time off to celebrate those different cultural holidays. And it could also be to create gender-neutral bathrooms, for example. And every year, these set of commitments are renewed after some consultation with a committee. And essentially, their toolkit is the list of commitments with accompanying resources, examples, and templates to make it very actionable and concrete and feasible for the employers, the signatories that are involved. And this is done through limited funding and a small team of local immigration partnership staff. So the organization that leads that project in Bow Valley is similar in structure to the Peterborough Immigration Partnership. On the other hand, Kingston's Workplace Inclusion Charter is being led by an employment agency, and their community is set in a larger and more diverse community, which includes international students going to Queen's University and the other colleges in Kingston. And they had a more systematic approach where they developed an assessment tool for signatories to identify the gaps within their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. And then after those gaps are identified, they will assign an inclusion coach with that employer and come up with an action plan. And it's essentially consultation services for the employers to develop and implement their DEI workplace inclusion plan. And this work is done through an extensive source of funding. So it was interesting to see how these structures were set up, what kind of supports that they had, and how they decided to design the toolkit for employers. And I think from these presentations, some of our key takeaways was that employer engagement throughout all parts of the planning process is important. So it's including them in discussions about the design. It's reaching out to them during the launch and also following up with them to learn about what's working and what's not, and the supports that are needed for them to be able to do the work. Along with that, a couple of projects have experienced success when they're done within a phased approach. So they often started on a smaller scale with some employers in a pilot. And then when that's done, they take the lessons learned from that and apply it to a wider launch. For example, Kingston's first pilot was working to promote newcomer inclusion in workplaces, and with more funding and lessons learned from that, they expanded it to other equity-seeking groups and are now considering expanding the charter outside of Kingston to include all the smaller towns and regional communities in the charter. And for both cases, for both Bow Valley and Kingston, having done the pilot project, they had several champion employers who were willing to share about their experiences and the best practices that they had in carrying out their action plan. And this was a good way to ensure that other businesses would buy into the charter, and also to serve as a resource whenever they need more support or guidance. So building this community of practice. And then the practitioners for both cases also mentioned that while we don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel, it is always important to consider the specific needs of the local community. For example, like what are employers needing? What are the experiences of the employees within those workplaces? What are the demographics of Peterborough like, the workforce, et cetera? So something to keep in mind. And throughout this process, the practitioners mentioned that it is important to meet the employers where they are when we are encouraging them to participate in the charter, and then also boosting their capacity to go beyond the charter and recognizing that this is a starting point, but it is not the only end point. And overall, that this is an ongoing and evolving learning process. So all of these models and charters have grown and changed throughout the years as people reflect on what's been working and what's not been working. So in reflecting on those lessons learned and the knowledge that was shared, we're currently working with the steering committee to develop a pilot model. And once we have something more concrete to propose, we're hoping to circulate that to different employers and partners within our community to seek their feedback. And I know that was a short presentation, and many people have reached out to me to talk more about this charter. So I'm extending that invitation to those who want to discuss more or have any other questions to contact me, and my email phone number is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. That was an amazing presentation, and I know where you started. And I know that we now have a clear idea of where we really need to be going if we are going to be a very inclusive community. So thank you again to you and your partners. The next item on the agenda, and again, we'll have a chance for some conversation and questions later on from Michelle. Factors that impact the retention of international students in Peterborough, which I think is a very timely discussion that we need to be having. And I will ask Danielle Lachance to introduce her team.
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So while the Trent students are getting their slides set up, I'd love to briefly introduce them to the group. So I'm Danielle Lachance, the Business Support and Project Coordinator with the Workforce Development Board. We had the pleasure of working with Phoebe, Herschelle, and David on a project through the Trent Community Research Center. So this project was aimed to expand on research completed by Adam Call, another Trent student in the 2019 academic year. That project focused on the economic impact of international students on Peterborough's local economy. So based on those findings, we were interested in learning more about the factors that impact the retention of international students in Peterborough. So now I would love to pass it over to Phoebe, Herschelle, and David to share their findings.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. One moment. Sorry, we're having a bit of So yeah, we were just having a bit of technology issues. So when it is David's turn, I will turn my computer towards him. But thank you guys for having us. Today, we're going to be talking about the factors that influence international students' decisions to stay or leave Peterborough. So like Danielle had mentioned, Adam Call's research, he did touch a little bit on these factors, but he mainly found that it was a lack of employment, job opportunities, lack of support, and cultural barriers that pushed people out of the city. So we will be expanding on that today.
So yeah, our main research question is, what are the factors which contribute to the decision of international students to stay or leave Peterborough after graduating from Trent? Our research question is broken down into two subsequent questions, which is research question number 1. What factors will inform the decision of current Trent international students to stay or leave Peterborough post-graduation? And research question number 2. What factors contribute to the decision of former Trent international alumni to stay or leave Peterborough? Moreover, how we conducted our research is firstly through a literature review to gain a basic understanding of all the issues faced by international students. And from this literature review, we devised our research question. Next, we focus on collecting substantial primary data through surveys and interviews. And finally, our last research method was through rigorous coding and data analysis. So a survey was sent out in January and was conducted via Qualtrics, and we gathered around 40 responses from around 30 current students and 10 alumni. Next, our semi-structured interviews involved a total of 11 participants, 5 current students, and 6 alumni conducted from the end of Jan to mid-Feb. So our first finding in our survey was employment, which was the #1 factor. Out of 40 survey respondents, 33 people intended to leave, left Peterborough or lived outside Peterborough, with 7 only intending to stay in Peterborough. The diagrams on the slide are based on the results of survey respondents who intended to leave, left Peterborough, or lived outside Peterborough for employment. The findings for current students and alumni varied. Students were asked to rate factors regarding employment on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very important and 1 not important at all. These were their findings. Current students and alumni ranked job related to their degree as their first number 1 factor, with career growth and availability of jobs coming as a close second and third. Next was housing. Following the same structure as 5 important and 1 not at all, the results for housing was as follows. Current students and alumni ranked the cost of housing as their number 1 factor, with quality number 2, and inaccessibility, meaning the price to location to uni, and the distance to amenities. The next finding was supports. The third prominent factor to leave Peterborough was inadequate supports in housing, employment, networking, immigration for students, where current students ranked employment as their number 1 factor, and alumni ranked housing as their number 1 factor to leave Peterborough. Next, the third for current students was networking, while for alumni, it was immigration. For current students, immigration was the least important factor, and for alumni, it was networking.
And so I think it's important just to clarify, we did our research through a course here at Trent, a community-based research program, and it's through our department. So we're students of international development. So we were able to contact students this way through both different supports here at Trent that helped us get in touch, and then just through emailing different students and being around on campus. So we conducted some interviews. They were semi-structured interviews. And what we found was similar to the survey, out of all of the people we interviewed, 8 out of 11 ranked employment as the number 1 factor to stay or leave Peterborough. And this was broken down kind of into 3, with jobs related to their degree being the most important part, and then permanent residency employment, so employment that will help them have a better chance at gaining permanent residency, and career growth and opportunities were also important in there. So then the perceived reasons for not finding employment, because a lot of students, so all the alumni found that they had a difficult time finding employment after they graduated. So some of these attribute it to a lack of experience, so in the career field they were going into. And then the question was, how do you get experience if you can't get a job? And then how do you get the job if you can't get experience? One of them said it related to Canadian experience. So they had work experience, but not in Canada. Lack of availability. And then one student attributed it to just Peterborough's economy in general, perceiving it as poor. And then there were some other prominent factors that were recurrent in our research and in these interviews. So the first one was housing and cost of living. So there was a lot of students who perceived Peterborough as especially expensive compared to some other cities. So this was in terms of food and housing. And then some students said they would stay in Peterborough just because of the recent housing prices and the rise in it in the past few years, and fear that they wouldn't be able to find affordable housing if they did leave their current location. The second one was permanent residency. So Ontario and the other provinces, they have a point scale for getting permanent residency, and certain factors get you more points. And Ontario
Looks like they had some technical difficulties. I'm just checking, David, or there you go. Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Sorry, yeah. Let me reshare. Can you see the slides?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so permanent residency, some students would leave Ontario because it is easier to gain permanent residency in other provinces. And then another factor was education. A lot of students mentioned they want to go to a graduate program after Trent, and Trent doesn't offer a lot of the programs that they wanted to go into. Some big ones were sociology. That was probably the highest amount of people.
Sociology. That's what you took.
Did my master's in sociology. I want this to be not on a full screen.
Okay.
Okay.
You like this?
No, it's good. Hi, sorry. Okay. And then the final one was the community. So this was, people were involved in both the Trent and Peterborough community, and we found that people noted being able to find, like through their community networks, they were able to find employment, but also it just gave them more of a personal connection to the town, which was a big reason for people who did want to stay, just feeling like a part of the community. So community was definitely a big one, especially the art community. That was mentioned a few times as well. Pass it to Deep.
All right, so just to go quickly over the things that changed ever since the first survey in 2020, the number of international students has increased from 1,000 to around 1,682. And this is because universities like Trent have begun to prioritize international enrollment in order to offset this nationwide freeze in domestic tuition and economic inflation ever since COVID. At the same time, tuition rates for international students have increased from 5% to 8% every year, depending on the program or the status of the student. The overall tuition revenue from international students has increased to 24%, from 24% to 44%. So it's almost doubled. And the result is that you have this greater focus on international recruitment, but the university isn't able to provide for each of them sufficiently. You have the, a feeling of perspective just limited to economic value. And on the brighter note, though, compared to the original study, we have seen a very more positive attitude towards the Peterborough community as a whole. How they perceive community in Peterborough has improved, and there has been a reduced number of cultural barriers or discrimination. It was very prominent in Adam Call's report as being an obstacle for them. Now we didn't get that many respondents saying that was the case this time. Next slide. So just we have a few more recommendations that we collected based on the students themselves and based on the literature review we did. Number one is to really try to connect Trent students with the Peterborough community and with local employers before graduation. And this can be done by better promoting local events and opportunities, a greater awareness for local organizations such as the New Canadian Centre. A lot of students had very positive things to say about the New Canadian Centre, but there were one or two who weren't aware of it. And so sharing that awareness will be very useful. And directing students towards Peterborough's community to make them feel welcome. As Phoebe said, the art community has a lot of students had very positive things to say about the Peterborough's art community. And just focusing on local businesses. For example, one interviewee mentioned, going to a job fair being held in Peterborough, and none of the employers were from Peterborough. So second slide. Secondly, we want to, increase support from Trent itself in helping students find employment. Networking is a very important thing that students mentioned. Trent would help them with their resume, help them with their cover letter, but we all know that making connections and networking is very important. And so linking people with local employers, local organizations, and community members will be very useful. Secondly, many students found themselves, as Phoebe mentioned, unable to get jobs because lack of experience. We know it's not just about getting a degree and diploma and you're set. A lot of jobs will require experience in that field. So helping them find that experience while they're doing their studies so that they can present it along with their diploma and degree will be very useful. Finally, it's important to note that a lot of students, they need to understand what their degree will actually get them, what kind of jobs that will be available based on their level of education. Some may choose a course or a program that is in lack of demand, or they don't know if there's any higher requirements down the road. So filling in those gaps and letting them be completely aware of where the program leads is going to be very important. And once again, better promotion of local events and opportunities regarding their fields, having them meet with alumni or having the alumni themselves meet together to discuss their issues will be very important.
Yeah, and then our final recommendation was in terms of housing. So a lot of students, this was a really big problem for international students, especially because being not from Canada, sometimes they didn't know that, for example, there was a standard lease. So a couple of students mentioned like not realizing until like their third lease that there was a real lease that you actually legally are allowed to have. And then as well, like having someone there to look over that and tell you what you're looking at. Yeah, that's a legal document. So one student said after she got to her third lease, she realized the first two weren't legitimate leases. So knowing your rights was a big second recommendation, just like having people at Trent who are like hands-on there to help you navigate these issues. And then resources and supports for students in precarious situations. So we heard of students who were, for example, sharing a room with 3 other people and they were all paying $500 a month, or students who were in unsafe housing just because their landlord was super intrusive, or landlords taking advantage of international students under an assumption that they have a lot of money, or that because they don't know the system very well, they can do that. So just having people at Trent, but even if it's not at Trent, having students know that there is people here ready to help you in case you do find yourself in these situations. So this brought us to the second part of it, which is the responsibility aspect. So the student has to hold, or the city has to hold landlords accountable to following landlord guidelines, making sure their tenants know their rights, and if these rights are breached, actually doing something about it. And then the second one with Trent is they have a responsibility to ensure students have safe housing. And if they're going to bring students in to a town and environments that is unknown to them, they must provide proper support for these students, because their job does not end once the students are here. It prolongs throughout their whole education. So yeah, and then just a couple final points. There was a big disconnect between Trent and the community, but we found that those in the Peterborough community, and we found that those students that did bridge this gap and were able to find like community outside of Trent and make connections outside of Trent and build those personal connections. So bridging that gap, those are the students who had very positive things to say about Peterborough and Trent. And those are the students that also were very inclined to stay. So thank you all very much for listening to our presentation and for letting us come here today. If you have any questions, we would love to answer them.
I originally said that we leave all comments and discussion till the end, but I also know with the work that's going on for Trent students right now, I'm afraid you may not be able to stay for the entire meeting. does anyone have any questions or comments they'd like to make on the presentation, other than the fact that I am thrilled with the work that you've done and the findings that you've come up with? For a very inclusive community, we have to be doing more of this in order to find out what we as a community need to do to encourage young people from many different aspects in life and countries to stay here. Any comments or questions? Danielle, would you like to say anything as a final word?
Oh, I just want to thank you for the invite, and thank you, Phoebe, Herschelle, and David, for sharing that. We really appreciate all the work you've done on this, and we look forward to your final report.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm the operations manager here at the Chamber of Commerce. First of all, thank you for that wonderful presentation. It was very interesting. I just wanted to mention a couple things that we are doing here at the Chamber, because here at the Chamber, our role is to advocate on behalf of business and to promote business growth within our community. And so just to your point about students finding it difficult to get permanent residency here. We are working on that issue here at the Chamber. We have submitted what's called a policy resolution to the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. And what that means is local chambers, they research different topics that are affecting their communities and put together some suggestions for how to improve those situations and issues. And then they go to the Ontario Chamber to be presented and debated there. And if they're approved by the Ontario Chamber membership, like then they become part of the advocacy efforts of the Ontario Chamber when they're lobbying to government over the next 3 years. So we have submitted a policy resolution making suggestions for how to increase the ability of newcomers to achieve permanent residency here in Ontario, talking about, like to your point, about how it's easier in other provinces to do that. And so we want to help level that playing field so that more people will want to stay in Ontario. So we've made some specific recommendations for that. And then also to your point about the networking, we do have a new arrangement with Trent University that provides the opportunity for students in certain programs. It's my colleague that runs that, so I'd have to see exactly which programs they are, but provides them with the opportunity to come to chamber events to connect with business people in the community. So I just wanted to make that point that, you know, it's interesting that you're raising these points, and I'm glad to hear that those points are the ones that, you know, we're trying to help work on as well. So we are always open to, you know, hearing from Trent, hearing from, you know, students like yourself about how we can help students get involved in employment, in business, and that kind of thing. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Lindsay, for those comments. And it certainly shows how this community from different sectors are wanting to work together for the same goal. Any other comments or questions? And we'd encourage you all to stay and complete our annual report together, our annual meeting together. We also understand if you do have other commitments, so thank you. I'm now going to ask Mauricio to present the video project, Our Neighborhood.
Absolutely. Thank you, Don. Hello, everyone. Good morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Mauricio Interiano, and I am the Community Engagement Officer at the New Canadian Center. And today I want to share with you some exciting project that we launched recently this year. It's called our Neighborhood video series. Just going to share my screen here. So this is a project funded by the Department of Canadian Heritage with really special and vital help from the city of Peterborough. The New Canadian Center was able to put together these 6 videos that shed light into often not so told stories of immigration. We have Fatma from Syria, we have Tashvi from India, we have Tim from Vietnam, we have Miguel from Venezuela, we have Samantha from Jamaica, and we have Bisham from Trinidad and Tobago. And for a couple of months, I worked with all of them individually to craft their stories and to be able to pull out really what they wanted to share in these videos. And really similar to other programs that we have, like the Living Library project that I've actually have come to the PEEP meetings to share about. These ones focus rather on those experiences about discrimination and maybe those experiences that we're not often too quick to share with folks. So today I want to share two of those stories. First, I want to share Fatma's story, and then I want to share Samantha's story with you today. These videos are also available on our website, so you can see the rest of them. They're also up on Facebook and our social medias, so you can see them. For the launch, we launched this project in February, and for the subsequent weeks, we kept receiving we asked people who would see these videos to fill out a form, feedback form. We wanted to know what were people's impressions about these videos, if this is totally new to them, if this is something that they see that has happened to them, you know. And even if you see the comments on Facebook, there has been a lot of empathy on folks about these experiences. You know, and some other people have actually come forward say like, hey, I also have a story and I would like to share it, you know. So it's very important to create this space to talk about these issues that often we don't talk about, you know. It's easy sometimes as newcomers to talk about the things that we love about Peterborough, but sometimes it's a little bit hard to talk about those areas that we wish it can improve. So as we see the videos, I want to invite you to think about what it really means to be a good neighbor, what it really means to welcome people who are new to Canada, to our city, and what it really means to build a more diversity and just society for everyone. So without further ado, I will share firstly Fatma's video. And please let me know if you can hear it properly. And again, all of the rest of these videos are also available on our website and on our social media.
All right, so I don't think we can see the video or hear it.
One sec. Okay, sorry, I thought I was sharing the video. Just give me one sec here. Shepherds. Can you see it now?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
we can't hear it though.
Oh, okay. We try something else. Was afraid this would be. Yeah.
Mauricio, when you click the share button at the very bottom, there's a little checkbox to say share sound.
Perfect. Thank you very much,
Click
Andy.
that, it should work.
Done. Okay.
Hi, my name is Fatma.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Fatma and I am your neighbor. I am from Syria. In 2011, Syria broke out. Like we had water there, and we have now water there. if you wanna like to protect ourselves and protect my brother, we have to come to here, and after that we can like bring my brother to here. At first we was like excited. Yeah, we was excited like to our future, what will happen for us. Like after that, it was really big challenge for my family. Like for my mother, for my father, they are from like other culture. So the culture difference for them, it was like big challenge for them, and the language we had. For the school community student, they are like more cold than that, like that. What I will say, I didn't get any chance to introduce myself to them or to build any relationships or any friendships with them. They have a picture of Muslim, they are tourists, like of the media. They are like taking decision without meeting me that I am tourist. So I have to just explain all my actions to prove to them that I am not tourist. They are like seeing my hijab, so they know that I am Muslim. So yeah, just like they are taking actions and like looks like that. Sometimes I can see that they are not accepting me in their eyes, like unacceptable in their eyes. So it's hard, really hard, like to continue my day. I told myself I have to help myself. I didn't have any power to speak up. Yeah, I was like not speaking a lot. I started to come to the NCCYL. I had the power to speak up, to find my voice again. I found friends here actually. I built some friendships here, so I feel myself now more normal. My dream to be a surgeon because in Syria or countries who has war now, the doctor, they are needed there. I want to see my effects, my impact on them. I am Fatma Al-Ahmed. I am Muslim, hijabi girl, and I am your neighbor.
This project was made possible. So that was Fatma. I had a really good time talking to Fatma and really talking to her and encouraging her to, and really like going a little bit deeper on what things she wanted to share with everyone. And one of the things that she kept telling me was that she just wanted to tell everyone how hard it was for her at the beginning, having to navigating friendships, and a lot of people assuming that she was a terrorist. Wearing a hijab, language barriers. There were a lot of other difficulties that she had just in building community in Peterborough, right? 3 of the speakers of this video series are young. So it's very interesting to see also, some of the challenges that they've had at school or in after-school programming or other opportunities that they might have. So it was really great to work with Fatma, and I'm really grateful for her to be able to share her story. And I'm very sure as we grow into becoming a very diverse community, we will have a lot of instances, unfortunately, instances like Fatma did. And the next video that I want to share is Samantha's video. Samantha is a entrepreneur. I also worked with her for a couple of months to shape her story. She's a poet. She's a performer, so it was a little bit easier with her. And even her video, I feel like she's even reciting a poem at some point. So if she also owns a hair salon, but I'm not gonna share too much, and I'll wait for you to see the video.
Hi, I'm Samantha, and I'm your neighbor. I am from Jamaica. I was born and raised there, but I knew I wanted to pursue tertiary education in Canada. But I also knew I didn't want to be in Toronto. So because Google solved all our problems, I decided to Google universities in Canada, and I stumbled upon Trent University. And I guess you can call it a nature pull because it was just the photos of nature and how it seemed to encompasses everything. I decided to go to Trent University, and that's how I ended up in Peterborough to begin with. I started my studies at Trent in January 2015. I was pursuing biology and forensic science. I loved my experience at Trent. However, when I got into the wider Peterborough community, I noticed a lack of diversity. I started to write spoken word poetry. That's how I knew how to express myself and our stories. I would get on stage, and I am reminded when I look out into that crowd that I am other, I am different, I am minority. And I just needed a haircut. And at that point, my hair was straight. I had a perm because it was easier to deal with. I'm thinking I'm coming to Canada, I'd at least have people who can deal with a straighter version of my hair. And I went to a hair salon and I asked to get a haircut, and she said to me, "I don't know how to do your hair." And for me, it was in that moment that it was an aha moment where I respected her truth, but it also made me realize something for myself. There's a gap here, and I can create a solution. Thankfully for me, I knew how to do hair. It was a passion of mine since I was younger. And I did my own hair. I started to do my friends' hair, and then it was a snowball effect. Everyone wanted to know who did your hair, and so everyone started to come to me, and I became Peterborough resident hair braider. So I started braiding out of my basement. So I went from the girl who braided hair in my basement to actually having a storefront where people who looked like me and shared my experiences could come into this space and have somewhere that actually catered specifically for them. I also re-emerged myself into that art community. I was performing at poetry slams. I was performing for different organizations within Peterborough. I performed at the Peterborough Arts Week Poetry Slam, and I just started to feel like it was home again. Peterborough is a small town, but it's such a large community in terms of the different groups of people that are here now, the different perspectives and lived experiences. It truly has become an electric city. I am Sam. I am a poet, I am an entrepreneur, I am a licensed paralegal, and I am your neighbor. Say hi when you see me around.
This project was made possible through funding provided by the Community Support, Multiculturalism, and Anti-Racism Initiatives Program at the Department of Canadian Heritage. You can learn more about your neighbors in the Our Neighbourhood series at www.nccpeterborough.ca/ourneighborhood. Yeah. Am I hearing someone else speaking?
No.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I think it was one of the other videos. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for just. So that was Samantha. Samantha is, like I said, an entrepreneur now, and actually she's gonna be giving training on a poetry and performance workshop tonight for our clients here at NCC. I also want to invite all of you to go and see the other videos with the other speakers. They're available on our website and also on our social media channels. I also want to thank the City of Peterborough and Rima Lee, who's also here in this meeting with us. And I want to also promote that on this Friday, we will be hosting an Instagram Live with the City of Peterborough, where we were going to talk a little bit more about this project. So this will be through the City of Peterborough's Instagram account, and my colleague Bisham, myself, and Rimu will talk about the project in light of the International Day of Elimination of Anti-Discrimination and Racism. And I think that's it for me. So again, I encourage you to see the videos on our website or on our social media. And if you have any feedback, and if you want to collaborate with us in any way to share these videos, please let me know. Really, our aim is to take these videos a little bit further and see what actions we can do with them moving forward. So thank you very much for having me here today.
Thank you so much. I just can't get over the depth of caring that these videos show, that we need to be caring more for newcomers, but also that they care about what we're doing and want to be part of our community. And from a sustainable community perspective, that's pretty important if we are to have a healthy community as well. So thank you so much. And again, like you, I'd suggest that we share these videos far and wide with other organizations, other individuals, and get the message out that, yeah, they are our neighbors. So thank you. I'm watching time. I know we have some time constraints. We're going to have some time for discussion and comments later, but first of all, I'll ask Andy to look at the terms of reference and just ask if there's any comments.
Great, thanks, Dawn. I will take the terms of reference as read. Yvonne did circulate them before, just in terms of the formal business of it. There are a couple of minor edits that Yvonne made, primarily updating some dates and the current list of members. But I'll pause briefly to say, does anyone have any other edits or suggestions with regards to the terms of reference for the immigration partnership? Speak now or hold your peace. Great. So hearing that, would take them as approved for the next year, and we can revisit them again next year. Of course, if after the meeting, if you have any suggestions, you can feel free to get in touch with myself or Yvonne. I also want to take the opportunity to thank Dawn Barry Merriam and Carmela Valles for stepping forward again as the chair and vice chair of the Immigration Partnership. Thank you for your ongoing service, as well as to the many volunteers that we have. Some do it as part of their work capacity, others not. In all cases, it's very much a labor of love and support for what we're trying to do as a community. There's many different members of the coordinating committee, the various working groups, as well as some that sit on NCC governance committees as well. And just want to give a special shout out to the staff that we have at the New Canadian Centre. We're blessed to have a pretty good amount of staff support for the immigration partnership work. So my thanks in particular to Basham Ramutar, Mauricio Interiano, Michelle Nguyen, and Yvonne Lai for her many years and leading the whole shebang. So thank you to you all for your work in support of the immigration partnership. And I'll pass it back to you, Dawn.
Thanks, Andy. And I'd also add those same comments, thanking you for your leadership and working as a team to make things happen in such an exciting way. So thank you, Andy. At this point on the agenda, we have comments and discussion, and I'm going to ask Hoyne, who many of you will know, who has a long history with the New Canadian Centre. I'll ask Hoyne to start the discussion and make an announcement.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dawn. I just wanted to take a moment for the Peterborough Immigration Partnership members to remember Todd Barr. Many of you probably knew him, definitely those who were here at the beginning. Todd was one of the founding members of the Peterborough Immigration Partnership, and I would say one of the pillars at the beginning of the whole initiative. He was the executive director of the Trent Center Community-Based Education. TCCB was also a very, very big partner of the New Canadian Center, and Todd oversaw many projects that Trent students did for the New Canadian Center and other community organizations as well. Todd has passed away at a very young age last month, and his service will be on April 2nd if anyone is interested. Carmela might actually remember more or know more about Todd because she was the executive director when we funded the Peterborough Immigration Partnership. But I can say that Todd was a really big supporter of immigrant settlement and integration into the Peterborough community. Personally, he was a mentor to me when I became the executive director. He started to take me out for monthly lunches and just gave me huge hugs. He would also show up to every meeting on a bicycle. He was very environmentally conscious. And yes, he was just one of the great leaders in Peterborough. Thank you very much for letting me share.
Thanks, Hoyni. And
Can I go?
And certainly the big thing with Todd was his love of research and his commitment to research. And he would be so thrilled with the presentation that was done today and the type of research that's been going on, and with the video project too. So thanks, Hoyni.
Hi, Dawn.
Oh, Carmela.
No, that's okay. Yeah, thank you, Hoyni, for that, and for giving me this opportunity as well. Yes, many of us in this online room, I think, have met and worked with Todd. And for those that have not, I would just like to share that when the work for the now we know Peterborough Immigration Partnership started in 2006, he was one of the first people on the table. And I think everyone would agree that he was a very kind and gentle person. And after I left the New Canadian Center, I had also the opportunity to work with him as a board member of the CCTPE at that time. And so, and then we know Todd had many roles in the community. So as Hoyni mentioned about, I think he was involved with the capital campaign of the, now we see beautiful building, the Hospice Peterborough. And the last time that I worked with Todd was when he was at the Community Foundation of Greater Peterborough. And so in memoriam of him, who I think really wanted to make a difference in the life, not only of his family and his loved ones, but also in the community in general. I'd like to share this quote that is from my late sister, who also got to work with Todd. And as well, I mean, it's a poignant moment in the PIP annual meeting, because one other person that was in the table, one of the first persons in the discussion was also Becky Rogers, and she has also left us. And my sister Dindin Villarino has left us, and Todd, that was such a shock last month when I heard from Yvonne about his passing. So at this moment, I would like to invite everyone to just pause and remember Todd, and for the efforts that he did in terms of trying to leave a footprint and living a life of significance. And so here's the quote from my late sister, Dindin Villarino. So she said, "Even famous people we forget only too soon. Some we hold memorials and services, but these are meant to honor the time, that fraction of the time their life meets ours. So we must strive for significance in the best way we can, for truly nothing marks our presence or absence in this world except the measure of significance our life gets." So this is, I think, what I would like to hold in my heart moving forward, not to forget Todd and the beautiful things he did, to keep doing things that will keep his name and memory significant to the life of Peterborough. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Carmela. That was lovely. I guess we can move on to some discussion now with the other parts of the agenda. Was there any questions, any comments, any thoughts that you'd like to share after you've heard the presentations today. I think it was
Dawn, I have one thing.
Yes, go
Sorry.
ahead, Carmela.
Yes, I really enjoy the part about as well, in addition to the research and the videos, Michelle's presentation on the workplace integration charter, so that if I may ask, if in the near future, in one of our sessions, if we could have an opportunity to hear from the pilot group of employers that have signed on the charter, that would really be great to hear from them, how straight from their experiences.
For sure. Thanks, Carmela, for that suggestion. Once we get to that point in the project, I would love to offer that space to the employers involved to share about their experiences. I think that will be a really important platform for them to talk about their experience and to encourage other people to participate. So I will keep that in mind. Thank you, Carmela.
Michelle, is there anything that we could be doing as PEP to support you and move that forward?
As of now, our steering committee is focused on preparing something concrete to propose to employers for their feedback. So when we do get to that point where we have something to circulate, then I will be reaching out again to ask for your suggestions on who we should reach out to ask for their feedback. But I really appreciate the support of everyone, and I'm really trying to think of intentional ways for people to participate. So again, appreciate the support that's been shown so far.
Excellent. Just keep us in mind and keep us updated. So
for sure.
Other comments, questions, thoughts on what you've heard today? I guess the other thing is that if you leave today's meeting and you have some additional comments that you'd like to make, please send them through to Yvonne or Andy, and they can be shared with us as a group later on too. Andy, Yvonne, anything that you'd like to add at this point? We're good to go. Well, thank you everyone for coming out today, participating in this annual meeting, hearing our successes, and we look forward to keeping you appraised of the next steps with many of the projects you've heard about today. Thank you.